Hello, my name's Jack Skipper, and for my independent case analysis, I got the Nintendo Switch. So first of all, going over the problems, challenges, and opportunities facing Nintendo. Nintendo operates in a very competitive space, the gaming space, with Microsoft and Sony being their two large competitors who offer high-powered computing game consoles. Hardcore gamers want better graphics and violent games, which was not Nintendo's goal. Nintendo did extremely well with casual gamers and created their own space with the Nintendo DS and the Nintendo Wii. For Porter's Five Forces, the competition in the industry is very competitive, with Sony and Microsoft both spending a lot of money to create and improve their games every year. And since there's only three firms, they have the power to charge higher prices. With the potential of the new entrants, the video game industry has very high barriers of entry because it's very expensive and takes a lot of time to create a successful video game console. And because of these barriers, the three main firms have dominated the market space, and it's very hard for new entrants to enter. The power of the suppliers. The suppliers in the video game industry provide physical products such as graphics cards and computer hardware, but because there's such a wide array of components that go into a gaming system, many different suppliers are used. And the fact that many different suppliers means that they have less power over the price. An increase in one unit is not really going to change the whole outcome of how expensive it is. So the power is low there. The power of customers. Since video game firms have many smaller independent customers, the consumer power is low, and Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo can charge higher prices to increase profits. As for the threat of substitutions, there's little to no threat of substitutions for the video games created in the space. And like I said, because there's so few firms, consumers don't really have many options with regards to substitution. People who like to play video games will buy the systems and play them, and people who don't, they won't. As for the value chain, one of the major competencies of Nintendo is the way they market their products and how it differs from their competition. Nintendo famously actually went to an old folks home and studied how they play games and used that in their research and development. And with their target audience being the casual gamer, that casual gaming space is less competitive, and they've been able to dominate that space with new devices such as the DS and the Nintendo Wii, which were incredibly innovative. Like I said, Sony and Microsoft, while they were running groups with gamers, Nintendo ran focus groups with non-gamers. Another aspect of their value chain is the fact that casual gamers don't really care as much about technology and graphics and things like that. So Nintendo was able to spend less on the technology they used, and that helped their profitability. Moving on, secondary activities in the value chain. The next major difference within the competing firms is the technology used, which I touched on earlier. Nintendo is able to save money while Sony and Microsoft are constantly spending more and adding new technology every year. Nintendo was able to do really well in the casual gamer space with the Nintendo Wii, which introduced a new controller that was used with motion that didn't confuse people. A lot of people are confused with traditional controllers, but the Wii did not have that problem and was very successful. As for the business strategy, I recommend that Nintendo focus on a focused differentiation capacity expansion plan. This strategy will allow them to focus on their niche market, which is casual gamers, and the capacity expansion I think will be very good for them as well, because they make a profit on every single unit that they've sold because of the low cost. So I think this plan would be the most effective for them to be the most profitable that they can be. With regards to implementing the plan, the Nintendo Switch was an innovative and successful product, but Nintendo will have to create a new console in a couple years to compete with Sony and Microsoft. Creating a new system that is also portable is key for Nintendo's success to differentiate themselves from the other two competitors. A new system from Sony is rumored to be coming out in November of next year, so Nintendo has until then to research and develop and come out with a new product. The success of the Nintendo Switch, I believe, will help attract people to their next product. And the Nintendo Switch actually had a 500% profit jump from their previous system, which will help them a lot in implementing the plan financially. On top of this, Nintendo, the lack of high-end technology, which I've spoken on earlier, makes it cheaper to assemble, which further adds to this plan's feasibility. And overall, I think the feasibility for the plan is high. Now, as for the three trigger events, the first trigger event that I came up with was being copied by a competing firm. That's always the risky run when you're hopping into a blue ocean market, which is a market with no competition. So Nintendo does run the risk of being knocked off. I don't see this as being a big threat though, as Nintendo has a lot of experience in this space, and that's where they've made most of their money. And they also work relatively cheaply because of their lack of competition, so it makes them pretty hard to undercut. The second trigger event was poor public reception of the new system. It always happens. It happened with Nintendo's Wii U. They thought that they had their next hit, and it came out and only sold 13 million units in total. So that's always a risk that you run, that people are not going to like the product that you put out. But they can mitigate this with the fact that they've been extremely successful in mobile games, games on the iPhone. For instance, Super Mario Run, which is one of their biggest games, actually had 200 million downloads before the end of 2017. There's some strong profitability in that, and that's also a route that they can take if they end up getting blown out of the water when it comes to console gaming. And the last trigger event that I was able to come up with is that consumers grow tired of casual games. Nintendo wants to have these casual gamers grow into dedicated supporters, but sometimes those people, they grow and they start buying PS4s, Microsoft products. They want to play sports games, shooting games. So that's always a risk that you run. And to combat this, Nintendo needs to develop a console that has never been done before to keep things fresh and new for casual gamers. But like I said, there is always that risk that it's going to get old and people are going to move on. But other than that, that's been my independent case analysis, and thanks for listening.